warm welcome. A really warm welcome to our regional dialogue on sustainable rangelands and pastoralism in Asia and Arab region. We're really glad to see so many of you joining us today. I'm Leonie Meyer. I'm the lead of the Global Grasslands and Savannas Initiative at WWF. I'm based in Germany, and it's my pleasure to moderate today's session. Joining us are distinguished speakers from key rangeland regions and organizations, also including a representative from the Mongolian COP17 presidency. So really thank you all again for joining us. Before we start, I would like to just remind you warmly for a few housekeeping notes. So we have interpretation for the session in English, Chinese, Russian, and Arabic. Slightly confusing because the Arabic channel is actually in the like it says Korean on the channel. So where you find the interpretation button, you click on it. If you want to listen to Arabic, please select Korean. And for the other languages, you can just select them as they are in the channel. We would like to ensure sufficient time for interactive moments and the Q&A. So speakers are requested to really please keep to your time. And we also welcome everyone to share your questions, comments, and views via the Zoom chat. We have a few people who will be monitoring the Zoom, and some of the speakers can also either answer directly in the chat or then in the interactive moment, the Q&A moment that we have at the end. Also, if there's UNCCD national focal points in the room, we would love to hear from you if you would like to take the floor during the Q&A session. In terms of, the practicalities are always the same. It's on the next slide. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. Share your views and questions and everything else in the chat. It's an open chat. You can also say where you're from and introduce yourself there briefly. In terms of the agenda, to give you a really rough outline, so we have an opening segment where we'll hear about why rangelands matter, hear a bit about the context. Then we'll move on to the COP16 decision. So that's very relevant for the UNCCD forum and also the implications of that for countries. We'll hear about the regional context of rangelands and pastoralism and the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists with inputs from India and Jordan. Then we hear from government perspective from Uzbekistan on a quick case study and some solutions. And then we move into future policy perspectives from the UNCCD COP presidency. And lastly, we'll have some closing remarks and some resources to keep this discussion going. As we said in previous, so this is the end actually of our webinar series. We had two previous sessions, one on Africa and one on Latin America and Caribbean. We would really encourage you to keep engaging via the IUCN Engage page, and we'll post information about that also at the end. And if you have registered for IUCN Engage, you will receive follow-up information and resources and the recording of this webinar as well. So as we approach UNCCD COP17 in Ulaanbaatar and a lot of events around the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, we'll explore national rangeland restoration priorities here, some concrete opportunities that we can table at COP17, and also hear about the vital legacy mechanism for post-COP17 action. So without further ado, and without taking so much more of your time, please let me introduce Dr. Claudia Hiepe, who's a Senior Policy Officer at the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany for opening remarks. Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, dear participants, dear organizers, dear panelists to this dialogue series. So BMZ is financing this series, but it's really not us doing the work. So great thanks also to WWF, IUCN, together with UNCCD, GIZ, and ILRI to set this up. So this year, 2026 really is the year to accelerate action on rangelands, and we will hear more about it during this hour on the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, on the upcoming UNCCD Mongolian Flagship Initiative on Rangelands and COP17. So this series is very timely to highlight the critical importance of sustainable rangeland management and livestock systems. So in fact, I think many people around the world don't see this. They don't recognize how vital rangelands are for food security, resilience, and climate action, not just for the 500 million pastoralists, but another 1.5 billion people indirectly depending on livestock, these systems for their livelihood. So in Germany, there has been just an article published actually by a group of scientists from the German, from the PIC, that's the German Institute for Climate Impact Research, which showed that by 2021, we could lose 1/3 to up to half of the rangeland areas due to climate change. So that's, of course, massive, but it's not just the problem of the future. It's already now these grasslands, rangelands are really under severe threat, and we really need to act on this. I personally was happy to see that this article created quite some noise, at least in the German media, I hope also in other countries, and not just in the national daily newspapers, but actually also in the economic journals, because this is also about economics and the highlight of investment in restoration and sustainable management of these grasslands was stressed there as well. So I will keep it short, my intervention. From German Development Cooperation, we of course have a number of activities supporting sustainable livestock systems through bilateral and global projects, through our multilateral engagement. We see this also together with the Rio Conventions. And let me just only highlight the upcoming Economics of Rangeland Restoration report, which is a flagship report financed by BMZ, but actually it's prepared in partnership with UNCCD, the mainly BMZ financed Economics of Land Degradation Initiative, ILRI, and IUCN. And what we see this actually as a contribution to the upcoming Rangelands flagship initiative, with the objective to mobilize investments, because what we really need is a proper assessment of these values, the social, economic, cultural, and environmental values of rangelands, to inform investments. So having said this, this kind of dialogue series, I think is quite helpful to understand the needs and also align them with the processes from UNCCD and the initiatives that are under preparation. So in that sense, I hope there will be a lively interaction also in the chat. And as Leonie already said at the beginning, it's actually the last of 3 regional dialogues. And I can say I didn't attend the first 2, that was my colleague, but what I heard from him is that there were already plenty of concrete ideas and expectations brought up, and some inspiring initiatives were presented that can be scaled or replicated. So in that sense, I'm really looking forward to this dialogue, and I will try to stay until the end, also to increase my own understanding on the topic and the perspectives from the Arab and Asian region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hiepe, and yeah, thank you also to BMZ for your support to global rangelands and pastoralists. Next, we'll move straight into a presentation by Jonathan Davies, who's independent consultant in agricultural economics and ecology, and he will talk us through the value proposition. So why rangelands matter, why they're important, not just in terms of their biodiversity, cultural values, but also in terms of economics, climate change, and all the other important values. So over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Leonie, and good afternoon, good morning to everybody on the call. It's a real pleasure to talk to you today. As Leonie said, I'm Jonathan Davies. I was the lead author of the study that you can see on the left there, and my co-authors, Abdurrahman Wane, Mandak Nyamseren, and Leonard Heinz, they're all there. And I'm only going to give a very brief overview in a few minutes, but you can download, if you can grab the QR code, I'll put it on it's on the final slide as well, so you can have a look, download the report and have a closer read. We developed this, of course, to mark the International Year on Rangelands and Pastoralists to help elevate the importance of the issue globally, but also to provide advice on investment in order to provide better guidance and better safeguards as the investments start to increase. We'll be working closely with the UNCCD to promote rangeland investments through this year and beyond, and to ensure that investors follow strategies that promote ecosystem rehabilitation and pastoralist resilience, and also safeguard pastoralists to ensure sustainable outcomes for their livelihoods. Can I get the next slide, please? Rangelands are lands where the indigenous vegetation is predominantly grasses, herbs, or shrubs, and they're used as a sort of natural ecosystem for raising either grazing livestock or wildlife. Most countries historically have neglected rangelands, often because they're perceived to be places of low value. And yet at the same time, we all know that they make an important contribution to food production. Particularly high value protein is produced on land that can't actually support crop cultivation. In some countries, rangelands are generating up to 80% of agricultural product. But on the other hand, food production is only a small part of their total value. And that's what's illustrated by the table here, which comes from a global meta-analysis of about 25 different research papers. And according to that study, food only accounts for about 8% of the total value of rangelands per hectare. The big values are classified here as aesthetic values, things like culture and recreational opportunities, and also maintenance of soil fertilities. These are the really high values. Now, I know there's difficulties in making and in interpreting these kind of data, but the important thing is that all of these studies highlight this key message, right? The greatest value of rangelands is derived through this multifunctional use. So combining livestock production with the delivery of these other high value ecosystem services. It's very important we keep that in mind for investment. Okay, next slide, please. This slide expands on that idea. On the left, you see that circle. You've probably seen that before. It's a typical illustration of ecosystem services. A bit small to read here, but you can see rangelands generate several values that are enjoyed externally, for example, climate regulation or water supply, but they're also producing values that are used directly by communities in the rangelands, call them pastoralists. All right, these direct values, they include natural products like timber and fuel and medicinal plants, and they also include pasture and water that are, you could say, harvested by livestock. Most pastoralist systems rely on several species of livestock, which each produce 3 or 4 products: milk, meat, skins, fiber. You end up with a portfolio of a dozen or more commodities with different seasons, different ecological niches, different values for subsistence or for exchange or for social capital or for income generation, and with different asset values. And when they're managed sustainably on top of all of those values there, pastoralism also has this positive feedback, you can see with the blue arrow at the bottom, into rangeland health. So when it's managed effectively, it's actually reinforcing those ecosystem services. So you can consider it a regenerative system, not a purely extractive system, but a regenerative system, unlike many other food systems. Okay, next slide, please. So our entry point for developing all of those values of rangelands usually or often is through development of value chains, but then that can create a new risk of over-exploitation and can lead to mismanagement of rangelands. So in this graphic, we try and illustrate the main elements of sustainable rangeland management, starting in the left in that little blue box with strengthening effective governance, which can include landscape planning mechanisms and coordinated community-based herd management, particularly on communal land. And once you've strengthened that governance foundation, this creates possibilities then for sustainable rangeland management, which requires managing the movement of herds and associated investments to enable herd management, such as water, fodder resources, and so on. And then this gives you the foundation for value chain development that capitalizes on that wide range of goods and services that I described before. For example, combining the sale of meat and milk and fiber with investments in ecosystem services, for example, through carbon projects or ecotourism or marketing of traditional remedies and local foods and so on. And then, of course, all these building blocks create the foundation on which other elements of sustainable development can be built, such as in education and health and security and so on. Okay, next slide, please. Sustainable development then of rangelands or pastoralists, it requires a significant increase in investment, but investments have to be carefully designed to avoid creating perverse outcomes like degradation or loss of resilience or inequitable outcomes. Well, this graphic highlights how that needs to be reimagined. And we developed this graphic to provide an alternative to the usual, much more simplistic strategy where investments are made directly into land and then the investor derives a return on investment directly from the land. In rangelands, the lands are already being managed by communities of pastoralists who are already making investments of labor and knowledge, and often whose land rights are ignored and undermined by external investments. So one of the recommendations from the report is to give greater priority to investing in the people, in pastoralists, as individuals or as community groups, for example, through microcredit and other financial services, as well as making investments downstream in value chains that the pastoralists rely on, but also getting a balance of investment in those value chains to avoid distorting pastoral systems and then undermining that diversity and undermining resilience. Investors are also recommended to look at investments in those ecosystem services, like I already mentioned, to provide these additional incentives for maintaining rangeland health. And I guess the main takeaway from this graphic is that it shows the complexity in terms of where you invest and where do you get your returns on investment, all right? And the need really for making sure you have enabling public investments and public-private partnerships to facilitate those private investment opportunities. Okay, that was a lot of information in a short space of time. I apologize for overloading you so early in the day, but have a closer look at the report. This year, the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, as I say, it's a huge opportunity. We can see that rangeland investments are starting to be scaled up, and it's time, therefore, to make sure we have appropriate advice and safeguards in place. And we'll continue working with the UNCCD to promote that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for these insights. So we hear that there's a lot of reasons for including rangelands and pastoralists in global environmental processes and in the conventions. So now we will hear from UNCCD on how this is operationalized, what the COP16 decision means, and also how this is done through the UNCCD Rangeland Flagship Initiative. We first hear from Sasha Alexander, who's Policy Officer at Global Policy Advocacy and Regional Cooperation at UNCCD, and then from Louise Baker, who's the Managing Director of the Global Mechanism at UNCCD. Over to you first, Sasha, and then Louise.
Thank you, Leonie. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us. So as you know, the UNCCD has a body of decisions over the last 25 years, and rangelands and pastoralists have been sprinkled throughout those decisions. However, it wasn't until COP16 in 2024 where the momentum culminated to a decision. We as a secretariat recognized this as an emerging issue, and several years ago began preparing the Global Land Outlook as part of our flagship family of knowledge products with a thematic report. And I think this was very influential to bring the issue of rangelands and pastoralists to the forefront in terms of the convention and its implementation. The Global Land Outlook offers a people-centered, rights-based approach, as well as a conceptual framework in terms of integrating the various elements and dimensions of rangelands, the services that they provide, the cultural, aesthetic, landscape aspects that we see as valuable, and it also looks at various governance and management approaches at regional and national level, with over 60 case studies in the report itself. So it's a good primer. All of these reports are available on the UNCCD website, and then the PowerPoint and other products will be available through the IUCN engagement page. Next slide, please. So the COP decision, the first COP decision on rangelands and pastoralists, really is seen as a commitment by 196 countries and the European Union to protect these vast landscapes. Countries pledged to increase their efforts to conserve, sustainably manage, and restore their rangelands. And they will be coming to Mongolia last 2 weeks in August for COP17. And we expect them to discuss and exchange on their experiences in terms of managing rangelands and recognizing the stewardship role of pastoralists. We see it as a fundamental shift, but it's beyond the convention itself, because I think it's really now permeating the global agenda. There's a certain recognition, along with forests, along with croplands, wetlands, that rangelands are an important land use category that needs to be protected and sustainably managed. Next slide, please. So the COP, the parties, member states, recognized and identified the benefits of healthy rangelands. And they invited themselves, is the typical way that the COP decisions come out, is that they invite themselves, encourage themselves to prioritize policies and investments for sustainable management. They also focused on the enabling environment, the need for responsible and inclusive governance, the need for land rights to be respected, the need for local communities to work with local authorities to really have context-specific activities that make sense on the ground and at the regional level. Next slide, please. So the UNCCD Secretariat has a work program, and this is a typical awareness raising, capacity building, and resource mobilization. We assist our parties with these aspects. We're focused on community-based participatory approaches. And we have a new Indigenous Peoples Forum, a youth caucus, and these will all contribute to our work, which we do in partnership with various international, regional, and national organizations. Next slide, please. So the next steps, we expect that we're going to bring together many diverse constituencies to celebrate the International Year and the completion of the Silk Road Journey. And you'll hear more about that from my colleague a little bit later on. We expect high-level representation, NGO, civil society, to be fully participating in the COP. The agenda is still being finalized, but we expect there will be numerous opportunities and spaces to discuss and exchange on rangelands and pastoralists. And we then, once that becomes final, we will invite partners to help us shape those discussions going forward over the next months. So with that, I'd like to close, and I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Louise Baker, talk about the Rangelands Flagship Initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha, and thank you, colleagues. It's a great pleasure to be here. So I'm Louise Baker. I'm the Managing Director of the Global Mechanism at UNCCD, and we've been working on a Rangelands Flagship Initiative now for a couple of years, trying to identify what the niche is for this, what we need to do to turn the amazing, fantastic advocacy and political engagement that the Mongolians have shown by getting the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists on the agenda in New York and having the year adopted. What we can do to ensure that this year, this international year, is not just a kind of performative thing where we say nice things about rangelands, but really transforms the way that the world sees rangelands and also transforms the way that we invest in rangelands and move towards the future. For us, I think COP17 in Mongolia is a once in a generational opportunity, and we really do need all of you to help us work towards making that happen. Can I have the next slide, please? So as I say, you can see here, we've actually been working on this since 2023, have had consultative meetings with colleagues. I developed a number of products that you see here on the right, the resources, and the main findings of all of this consultation is that there are still significant knowledge gaps in terms of the information that we have about rangelands, their value and their proposition. You heard Jonathan earlier talk about the great work that's been done there in terms of identifying these economic values. There are policy, it says failures here, that might be a bit strong, but improvements in the enabling environment to ensure that the rangelands are given the priority within decision making that they deserve, and that because they've been ignored, the level of investment is low. Next slide, please. So the components that we've been focusing on in terms of the flagship initiative have been, well, there's three components: developing, supporting knowledge products, increasing public and private investments in rangelands, and strengthening institutions to promote rangeland policy and investment. So these are sort of the main elements, the key elements, critical elements of the Rangelands Flagship Initiative. In principle, we will be launching this in COP17, and we are looking now to try to identify the exciting, and we know that there are great projects out there. So projects that are either being rolled out in rangelands already, or from the global mechanism side, whether we can help you with the process of mobilizing resources for the fabulous rangeland projects that you have going on. We know across Asia there are and the Middle East, there are spectacular projects happening. So I also don't think we know about all of them. So it would be great if we can hear from you about what you're doing and whether you have a project that supports one of these components and that you would like to be considered to be part of the flagship. And then we will work together to have this be the most impactful flagship that we can, as loud and as building as much dynamism around this issue. We're looking for impacts that reduce poverty, increase resilience, deliver food security, deliver One Health. And for example, the Global Mechanism is collaborating with Louis Vuitton on a project on One Health in Mongolia that is very, very exciting and very different, or that build peace and stability. And we're really looking for a synergy type activity so that we're not doing activities in isolation, but we're bringing together and we're amplifying the good work that is happening. Next slide, please. We know that approximately $155 billion is needed to so actually the table here I find really interesting. The cost of rangelands degradation at the moment is around $3.2 trillion. The cost of restoring rangelands is around $155 billion at the low end. I think that's a lot of money, but it is a useful target for all of us to imagine how we, not just through projects, but about how we change the investment environment so we can get to that kind of order of magnitude to bring the rangelands back to the life that they deserve and the recognition that they deserve within the economic system. Next slide, please. So this is where we're mostly focusing, and this is the bit I wanted to flag up. By the time we get to COP17, we would like to have identified $1 billion worth of funding, whether that's already in play or is under development, but that really would make a huge, genuine impact on the life of people in the rangelands and on the environment in the rangelands. So these are the kind of public-private investment projects that we're looking to identify. If this is something that you think you can work with us, please do reach out. I'll put my contact details in the chat. Please do reach out. We got some great feedback from the other regions, and we want to make sure that Asia and the Middle East are also well represented. So please do reach out to us on that. Thank you. Next slide, please. That's it. Thank you very much from our side. I knew I was being focused. Really what we're looking for is come and give us which projects, where you need help, where you've got great projects that we should be profiling as part of this initiative. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you very much, Louise, also for this open invitation to collaborate, and Sasha also for bringing context to the UNCCD COP16 decision. We will hear now We'll zoom in more into the regional context. And next up, I have Bhavana Desai, and sorry for mispronouncing your name possibly. She's a founding member of the PAL Foundation, Pastoral Women Alliance in India, and she's also member of the FAO-led steering committee for the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. The floor is yours, and please share slides if you have any with you. Bhavana. Do we have Bhavana in the room? Okay, well, if not, then let's first move to Kutna Al-Wetat. Kutna is Al-DC Women, is part of the Al-DC Women's Cooperative, a women-led community organization that works to safeguard local biodiversity and traditional knowledge in the Wadi Rum Valley of Jordan. So Kutna has some slides, and she'll be presenting in Arabic. So please select the right channel if you do not understand Arabic. Kutna, over to you.
مرحبا. هل إنه بالنسبة لجمعية السيدات قرى حوض الديسة، هاي الجمعية اللي كان هدفها من البداية تمكين السيدات. الملف اللي نازل، أنزل أنا ملفي ولا تفتحوا من عندكم الصفحات؟
We share your screen. You can just say next. You can just say next slide, and then we'll move the screen.
1 minute please. بدي أحكي عن منطقة الديسة. تأسست هاي الجمعية بتاريخ 2010. كان الهدف منها تمكين السيدات. إحنا في منطقة نائية بدوية تبعد عن مركز المدينة على حدود السعودية، فنشتغل بإعادة وتأهيل المراعي وفي إنشاء مشاتل بيئية إضافة لذلك إنه تأسيس السيدات على إنهم يحبوا هاي المنطقة من خلال استغلال الموارد الموجودة فيها، وخاصة إنها منطقة سياحية بالدرجة الأولى، وإضافة لذلك إنه منطقة تعتبر من مناطق المراعي المهمة في البادية الجنوبية. أنا يعني بشوف الصوت عم بيعمل صدى عندي. هاي الجمعية حكينا تأسيسها بال2010. ممكن اللي بعديها. نعم. الصفحة اللي بعديها هي حكينا إنه هاي بتضم مراعي موسمية ومنطقة سياحية وبيئة صحراوية. إضافة لذلك إنه تعتبر منطقة يعني قليلة الأمطار وارتفاع درجات الحرارة، وهذا له أثر كبير على المجتمع المحلي وخاصة على السيدات، وبسبب قلة الأمطار كان له تأثير كبير على السيدات. إضافة لذلك بسبب طبعا الرعي الجائر، تراجع المساحات الرعوية، الجفاف، ارتفاع أسعار المحروقات، كمان هذا له أثر كبير على المجتمع، خاصة إنه إحنا مناطق يعني تعتبر من مناطق جيوب الفقر، وكان لها أثر كبير على استقلال الأسرة وثباتهم في هاي المنطقة اللي نعتبرها إحنا صحيح منطقة صعبة، لكن أهل المنطقة حبوها وتعايشوا معاها على أساس إنهم يوفروا دخل إلهم من خلال العمل اللي هم بيشتغلوه. إضافة لذلك المخيمات السياحية كان لها أثر كبير بصراحة على المراعي، وإحنا لسه يعني مجتمع محافظ وعشائرية ومجتمع ذكوري بالدرجة الأولى، فالسيدة يفضل لها الاستقلالية والأمان، فوجود المخيمات السياحية كمان أثر وقلل نسبة الرعي وخاصة على السيدات في هاي المناطق. وإحنا اعتماد كبير من السيدات على في مجتمعنا على المرأة في هذا الموضوع وخاصة في الرعي. في عندنا فرص مؤقتة للرعي مثل توفر الزراعات الموسمية، تخفيف الضغط على المراعي الطبيعية، هاي بتساعد كمان. فرص في غير مستدامة هي تعتبر مش طويلة الأمد، وخاصة في فترة مواسم الزراعية إنه المزارعين بيفتحوا للحيوانات الأغنام الإبل، وخاصة الفترة اللي فيها بيكون فترة آخر القطاف، بتكون فرصة كبيرة للمزارعين لأصحاب الحلال إنه يخفف عليهم من العبء. دعم مؤقت بصراحة وقليل بالنسبة للأعلاف لمربي المواشي، وخاصة في فترة الجفاف وفي فترة الصيف، لأنه بيكون الربيع يعني والموسم بيكون خفيف جدا. بالنسبة للمرأة البدوية، المرأة البدوية امرأة قوية تستغل الفرص. يعني احنا عايشين بين الجبال وبالصحراء وبين الرمال، ولكن ومع ذلك أثبتت قدرتها ووجودها المرأة البدوية من خلال تحويل الثروة الحيوانية من نشاط معيشي إلى مصدر دخل مستدام من خلال إنتاج الحليب ومشتقاته، تدريب السيدات على هذا الموضوع، الاستفادة من اللحوم في فترة الاحتياجات وخاصة في فترة المواسم. وإحنا يعني البدو عنا بالمناسبات بالأعياد بيستفيدوا من هاي الفترة هاي. صوف الأغنام وهذا إلنا كجمعية لعبنا دور كبير فيه، لأنه يعتبر إرث ثقافي موجود عنا. حاولنا من خلال تدريبات السيدات على فتح مشاريع منزلية. هاي المشاريع المنزلية كان لها أثر كبير ومورد اقتصادي يساعد السيدات في المنطقة على التخفيف من مشكلة بيئية كبيرة عندنا بالمنطقة. لعبت دور من خلال منتجات سياحية. هاي المنتجات السياحية بالتعاون مع المخيمات والبازارات أصبحوا السيدات سوق إلهم لتوفير دخل إلهم. الصوف الماعز كان له أثر كبير زي ما حكينا في بسط سجاد تسويق المنتجات مع السياح، وهذا لعب دور كبير في تعزيز الاستقلال الاقتصادي للمرأة والحفاظ على التراث البدوي. ممكن بنسعى جاهدين تخفيف مشكلة الفقر والبطالة بين النساء ودعم الأسر، وخاصة زي ما حكيت بالأول إنه إحنا عنا نسبة الفقر عالية جدا وخاصة بين السيدات، وإنه بدنا نحاول إنه الاعتماد على الرعي كمصدر، مش هو كمصدر وحيد، لا، ممكن إنه إحنا من خلال الرعي نحقق فرص كثيرة للسيدات يوفروا من خلالها الدخل من المشتقات الحليب والأجبان لما دربناهم كيف يصنعوها، وإضافة لذلك الصوف كيف استغلاله. وإن شاء الله الآن عم نشتغل على الجلود اللي بتضيع كمان يعني عدم المؤاخذة بتعمل كمان أثر بيئي، إنه نستخدم هاي الجلود في صناعة الحرف اليدوية وتدريب السيدات عليها. في مبادرات كثير عملناها من خلال على أساس أنه ندعم المراعي، وفي يعني يعتبر عندنا بالأردن يعني إحنا من أوائل المشاتل اللي اهتمت بإعادة إحياء النباتات الطبيعية الموجودة بمنطقة رم والمهددة بالانقراض. ويعتبر كمان يعني يمكن إحنا بالأردن اللي نجحنا في زراعة شجرة الغضا اللي هي الدالة على محمية وادي رم، وهي غذاء مهم للإبل والحيوانات، وهي مثبتة للكثبان الرملية للحيوانات اللي انقرضت من المنطقة مثل الغزلان، الطيور. النباتات الرعوية الطبية كمان لعبنا دور فيها كبير، لأنه نحاول إعادتها من خلال مشتل الجمعية. وإضافة لذلك أنه دعم السيدات من خلال الثروة الحيوانية، إنه كيف إنه إحنا صرنا من خلال برامج إنه السيدات اللي مش متمكنات وقادرات إنهم يوفروا عندهم يكون عندهم حلال، دعمناهم في أكثر من مع وزارة التخطيط، وفرنا لهم أغنام. هاي الأغنام أصبحت مصدر دخل ثابت لهم في منطقتنا. وكمان نطلب إن شاء الله من الحكومة إنه تخصيص المناطق الرعوية وحمايتها، وخاصة إنه إحنا الآن في عنا يمكن عدة مشاكل راح تظهر بمنطقتنا مثل القطار السريع اللي راح يأثر كثير على المراعي، الخط الناقل البحري كمان راح يأثر. هذا إن شاء الله إنه نحاول قدر استطاعتنا إنه يكون الأثر مخفف، خاصة على منطقتنا من خلال بهمنا أكثر إشي إنه هاي المراعي ما تتأثر، وما يأثر كمان على حب الناس لهاي الأغنام، لأنه بيعتبروها إشي رابط وثيق معاهم. تمكين الأسرة، تمكين المرأة في المشاركة بالمحافل الإقليمية والدولية، وهذا يعني إحنا كمان مبسوطين إنه إحنا نشارك، رغم يعني أنا بعتذر على لغتي الإنجليزي، فكنت متوقع إنه في ترجمة فورية مباشرة، فللأسف الشديد يعني هذا الإشي بصراحة يعني ضايقني شوي. تعزيز دور المرأة كإلها دور اقتصادي وبيئي في المنطقة من خلال استخدام الأرض، كوننا إحنا هاي الأرض أرض يعني تربينا فيها وأرض جدودنا، ونحاول قدر استطاعتنا إنه نوفرها على أساس نخفف من مشكلة الفقر والبطالة في منطقتنا. إن شاء الله إنه إحنا إنه تكون المرأة البدوية في منطقة في الأردن بشكل عام وفي البادية الجنوبية بشكل خاص، إنه يكون لها دور كبير في حماية المراعي، في حماية المنطقة اللي إحنا بنشتغل فيها، وحتى في السياحة. يعني المراعي بصراحة فتحت فرص كبيرة للسيدات إنهم يشتغلوا بالقطاع السياحي من خلال وجودها في البيت أو في الجمعية. تحقيق التنمية المستدامة وتحسين سبل العيش في البادية الجنوبية بشكل عام. وشكرا لكم. أي سؤال يعني أنا موجودة.
Thank you very, very much, Kutna, for this amazing presentation and giving insights into your really impressive work with women's community. Appreciate you sharing this with us, and also thanks to the International Land Coalition for facilitating the contact and for bringing you here to this webinar. So really appreciate it. We'll have questions at the end, but if you have questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to post them in the chat. We will hear now we're going to a different part of the world, to Uzbekistan, and we'll hear from Anaid Kurzudian. Really sorry for my mispronunciation. She's the UNCCD focal point and chief specialist in the Ministry of Ecology, Environmental Protection and Climate Change of Uzbekistan. And Anaid, you have the room.
Thank you, Leonie. Allow me to first thank the organizers for convening this important dialogue and for the opportunity to exchange perspectives on sustainable rangelands and pastoralism. My name is Anaid Khurshudyan, and I represent the National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Rangelands hold a special place in Uzbekistan not only as a natural ecosystem, but as a traditional foundation of rural life. For generations, pastoralism and livestock grazing have shaped livelihoods, culture, and economic activity across arid and semi-arid regions of the country. In today's context of increasing climate variability and water scarcity, preserving and sustainability management of rangelands means safeguarding both a traditional way of life and the long-term environmental stability of the country. Next slide, please. For the last few years, Uzbekistan conducted large-scale geobotanical surveys across 25 million hectares of rangelands. The results show that 20% of these areas are degraded, while 30% lost their vegetation cover. Average forage productivity stands at 2.6 centers per hectare, and one livestock unit requires approximately 35 hectares of pasture. These figures demonstrate the increasing pressure on our pastures ecosystem. At the same time, soil fertility and salinity remain serious concerns. As of April 2025, 44.5% of irrigated lands are affected by salinity to varying degrees, and 1.2 million hectares show low humus content. These factors increasing agricultural vulnerability to drought and place additional stress on water resources, directly linking rangeland and soil management to our commitments under the UNCCD and the LDN framework. Next slide, please. In response, Uzbekistan has established a consistent like the foundation for rational use and monitoring, while subsequent presidential and governmental decisions have strengthened pasture protection and groundwater safeguards. Rangeland management is fully integrated in our national LDN commitments. Next slide, please. So these policies are supported by practical results. In 2024-2025, the condition of 680,000 hectares of degraded pasture was improved through reseeding and rotational grazing practices. At the same time, melioration measures, including drainage and collector rehabilitation, improves more than 24,000 hectares of salinity-affected land. Landscape restoration also remains priority. Under the National Yaşalmakon initiative, nearly 364 million trees were planted in 2024-2025, contributing more resilient agricultural landscape and reducing degradation risks. Next slide, please. So looking ahead, we continue strengthening our scientific and technical base, enhancing monitoring systems, expanding applied research, and improving institutional coordination. Regional cooperation is essential, given the transboundary nature of desertification and water management challenges in Central Asia region. In this context, we look forward to the upcoming UNCCD COP in Mongolia as an important opportunity to advance global dialogue on sustainable rangelands and practical pathways toward achieving the LDN. Thank you, and this was my quick presentation on Uzbekistan practices.
Thank you, Anaïd. That was really concise, but a lot of information. I feel we could have a whole session on that actually. But thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing also priorities for regional cooperation. I think there's a lot in there that can be unpacked. Please keep your questions coming. I see there's a lot of people also sharing relevant initiatives and some questions also being answered directly in the chat. So thanks to our experts for that. Without further ado, now I would like to invite Ariontuya Dorsuyan who's the Director General of Policy Planning and Resource Mobilization for the UNCCD COP17 National Committee of Mongolia. And Arina, I think you share your own slides, so please open your mic and the floor is yours, and we look forward to hearing about your priorities and your vision for COP17.
Hello, hello, colleagues, and thank you for inviting me to this the meeting. And then, well, nothing gives more pleasure than being in this online meeting and gathering as a country or as a host country for the UNCCD COP17, and as one of the many of the people supported UNCCD COP16 decision on rangeland. So my presentation will be very simple, because everyone stressed out and highlighted how important the topic is. So I'm just going to the good part, good part. Share screen, right? And then, oh sure. Let me share window. Share this window. I think, yeah. So can you see presentation?
We see the presentation, not in the presentation format yet, but the slides are up.
Is it? Is it now? Is it now?
Yes, now it is. Thank you.
Okay, so a very
yes, it's good. It's good. You can see now.
Okay, so very few points or what together all of us can do for the COP17 of the UNCCD and scale or more scale up or more to have this global recognition for the rangeland. So some of the slides is already mentioned by Sasha and by Louise Baker. So I would skip. So COP17 of the UNCCD already announced its slogan, and I think you all heard. So COP17 will be organized under the slogan of restoring land, restoring hope. And this slogan is giving also for land to be recognized as important, and with restoring hope, strengthening hope, we will manage to have healthy land as of the end. So I just wanted to share this slogan with you first as a ice-breaking the message. And this slogan is divided into sub slogans. So once the land is about life, and also we need to consider about climate change aspects of it. And if land is healthy, then all human beings or living beings will be healthy. And land is about economies, it's about investment. The peers, especially UNCCD and Jonathan's intervention was about. And one thing we're identifying is land is also about the water. By the way, that would be one of the country or national priority to be addressed as a host country to the COP17. And as a nomadic country, as a landlocked country, the way we deal with or the harmony with the land is the culture. And then many of Asian and many of the people in this room would understand what is the connection between or interlinkage or an inseparate meaning of land and culture. So overall, COP17 slogan and sub-slogans are here. And then having these slogans and sub-slogans, how the rangeland can be scaled up, and then how this slogan can be interpreted to the rangeland management, and especially how it line with LDN targets, the national target. This is the way how Mongolian government see rangeland positions itself on restoration, ecosystem restoration decade and LDN and other important the global commitments. Indeed, everybody's saying, and I think all of us excited that 2026 is a combination of many things. You know, very soon the Brazil the migratory species COP is going to start, and then they're going to talk about connectivity, ecosystem corridor. That also brings a big portion of rangeland. And as scaling up items, exactly what we are doing, and then I really I would be very much happy to integrate more what would be the way forward to COP17 as scaling up existing possibilities. And then if we really focus and dedicate and prioritize rangeland as one of the key ecosystem, then COP17 should be the momentum to the funding, the policy, strategy, and partnership, collaboration, and cooperation, any of that. And one thing I would like to commit here, or would like to share, is Mongolian government and UNCCD Secretariat, together with the global mechanism, we are working almost daily. How the Rangeland flagship initiative can be scaled up, and also how it can be useful on the ground for the countries those would express their willingness to join this the flagship or to contribute to this flagship. So we identified the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralist and COP17. We try to identify this synergy, and then what we can do during COP17 as a member state to Rio Conventions. Everything we discuss under the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralist, or if there is any good momentum that need political decision or resolution or debate, then Mongolia would be pioneering as a proponent country for the International Year and as a host for the COP17. We would promote to Climate COP, and we would promote to CBD COP. And for us, we just don't want to spend or celebrate 1 year as a public awareness or community engagement or stakeholder the consultations. From this combination, especially dedicating for the rangeland, we want concrete actions and we want concrete solution proposals from all around the world. And together with the member states, together with the focal points for the Rio Conventions, we would like to bring it more into consensus-rich paper, exactly what we did in the Riyadh COP for Rangeland resolution. So this is one of the open call for all focal points and all the stakeholders involving the rangeland and prioritizing and exciting like me to celebrate and to bring up rangeland into global attention. So please join. Mongolia will be open, and then during our COP17 presidency till next COP18 organizers, we will be supporting and engaging and still continuing the leadership on rangeland. I've just given you some idea what the rangeland can, how we see at the national level, and then how we also want the other countries, member states, and other international organizations to support is the 3 initiative. And of course, the Rangeland flagship initiative is the global multi-year initiative. And also, we are developing with WWF International and other international and UN organization on water and land nexus, especially in semi-arid region. And their water and land nexus is also covers the portion of, or some aspect of rangeland to be highlighted as well. And then the 3rd initiative Mongolia would launch during COP17 is a nature-based solution for sustainable infrastructure. That is the nature-based solution for NBS for sustainable infrastructure is an initiative we would like to promote, encourage, and appeal private-public partnership and private sectors to invest to the land, but making it more green investment, making it more green infrastructure that would indirectly and directly contributes to the land the management. So the last point, this is how we see the role of focal points and civil society, international organization, and UN organizations. We Mongolian government welcomes, and we are very happy to learn and to receive the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists 12 thematic month events. Having these 12 thematic months, the focal points, the civil societies, and the international organizations should collect the meaningful or impactful solutions, because all these activities are meant to have or explore solutions and brainstorm to identify the best practice that we can scale up at global level or regional level. So this part we would like to engage more with the International Year's 12 thematic months, and we would be very happy to hear. And also the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and Light Industry of Mongolia, the focal point for the International Year is engaging to receive as many as possible the thoughts, recommendation, and the draft solutions. And also, we would like to ask many countries, all interested countries and international organizations to show your practices, the traditional knowledge and lessons learned, best practices during COP17. Even though the side event registration or the call for the side events for the COP17 would open a bit late, but there is a green zone for civil societies, local communities, youth or gender groups or international NGOs to display in our green zone. So we would be also very happy to accommodate as many as possible and as much as possible. Also, having said that, together with many international organizations, especially with the Development Bank, bilaterally, Mongolian government is requesting them to support the local communities and the scientific family, NGOs, civil societies, or the practitioners to come to Mongolia and ask them to and requesting MDBs to promote COP17 participation level. So if there is, if in your respective countries, if there is a World Bank or if there is an Asian Development Bank or any other multilateral development banks or UN agencies, you also can express this wish, because we already started discussing and expressing our requests to MDBs and UN and international organizations to promote COP17 participation. Well, to promote the participation of the member states, non-state actors to come to Mongolia. Of course, it doesn't limit state actor or non-state actor, but for those who wish to come to Mongolia, probably by end of March, you can start engaging with them, and that is what Mongolian government is trying to achieve for COP17. At the same time, highlighting rangeland, water, and MBS as a very synergetic, interlinked approach, at least as a landlocked developing country like Mongolia. So my presentation here, and then you would receive. I would like to receive questions if you all have, but I would be very happy to engage more on the discussion. What is the way forward for the COP17 as a united call? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Aryan, Tuya, and thank you also for this open invitation. I think there's a lot of ideas on how to shape this, and you've already given, some great inspiration on what the way forward could be for, really making the most of this International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists and the moment that we have at COP17. Before we move into questions, last but certainly not least, there's another really interesting and exciting initiative that UNCCD is leading on the Silk Road, really, to COP17. So I would like to ask Marcos Montero, who's the External Relations Officer at UNCCD, to briefly walk us through what you have planned there. Over to you, Marcos.
Yes, thank you so much, Elena. And it will be very brief, and I think it's a very good continuation in the journey of this presentation. So we heard our focal point, Arintuya, from Mongolia, the next host country for the COP of the UNCCD, and what we are going to be seeing there. And the idea also is accompany that journey between now and also the COP, and connecting COP16 with that groundbreaking decision we had on rangelands and pastoralists, the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, with a physical journey, moving from Saudi Arabia, from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Ulaanbaatar and the COP17. So we will have this Silk Road caravan that will be a symbolic and physical journey around 6,000 kilometers, bridging Riyadh to Ulaanbaatar, with the interest on highlighting how relevant the rangeland ecosystems and their stewards across numerous nations. So why we are having this journey is, of course, is to celebrate the International Year of rangelands and pastoralists, and also showing how people have been living and they are living in to bring value to the rangelands. The objectives of this campaign is to put the spotlight on the sustainable rangeland solution across the journey and around the world, secure investments and political support for rangelands, and this is also the connection with the legacy that Louise Baker has been presenting before, and also to elevate the pastoralist voices, especially those that they are in situation of vulnerability, women, indigenous, and local leaders. So the idea is to start around 5 months before the COP17 and to do it in Riyadh, having the launching there, and with a small core group going through the different legs. If we can move directly to the map later on, if somebody's managing the next. Yes, so the idea is here. So here you could see what we are having different areas where this will be moving. So Saudi Arabia, Jordan, we are very happy to see representatives of the International Land Coalition, which are also partners in this journey and this venture. And then Turkey, there will be also a special part of the journey that will take place in Central Asia and some of the countries around there. And then, of course, finishing in Mongolia and going through China. We hope also to have some kind of a break around June 17, where the celebration of the Certification and Drought Day will be organized in Kenya. So the host country for the global observance will be there, and we also hope to have some part of that journey around that area. So we are hoping with this journey to raise the visibility and work on the outreach. So having some strong national engagement. So this will be in collaboration with the countries that we have been mentioning there. Some of them have already expressed their interest and support for the initiative. So we will be having some more concrete journey and agenda in the next few days. There will be, of course, a film crew that will be going around and supporting visually what is happening with the idea of having a short documentary and also preparing some images that can help portraying the way people are living and how they are bringing value to the rangelands and the way of living. For this journey, we are having partners, of course, the focal points, the governments with whom we are working. Some of them have been making presentations here today. We are working closely with the Secretariat of the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, and also the steering committee members, and I mentioned also the International Land Coalition. The idea also is to have support from other UN organizations, entities that can help with the logistics to make sure that this journey is happening, and we can end up all together on the 17th of August in Mongolia, as we start in COP17 together. So we hope that many of you, particularly since this caravan is taking place in your region, also can participate in a way or another, and we look forward to your collaboration. Thank you so much, and we are really looking forward to engaging with all of you in this exciting journey. Thank you.
Really exciting. Thank you so much, Marcos. So we're a little bit over time, but I would like to still open to 1 or 2 questions. Please raise your hand firstly. If you have a burning question that you want to ask now, and this is your moment. And yes, if there's anyone who wants to ask anything that hasn't been answered in the chat yet. I saw that there was a lot of good initiatives being shared in the chat. So thank you for this. I think that's always a great opportunity for these webinars to really also learn from others who are in the room, even though these Zoom rooms are sometimes artificial. Okay. No questions. We answered all the questions, or everyone is speechless. Khalid, please.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for organizing this webinar, and thank you for the speakers. I'm Khalid Khawaldi from Jordan, and I am the global coordinator of Women for Allah Subhanahu Indigenous People and Pastoralists. It's interesting to hear about the engagement of the pastoralists in the different activities, which is very important. And we as women, we feel that this is important to be emphasized and to make sure that the pastoralists are engaging in the process. We're talking about the IYRP 2026 to be engaged from the planning of any activities or event or projects. So from the planning phase of all these events, they should be there, and their concerns and interests should be also considered. For us, we think that the IYRP is not only a year for celebration or for any temporary event, but it is building the foundation for a solid right recognition and policy, pro-pastoralist and rangeland policies all over the world. We need to work on that to make sure that beyond 2026, we have better better environment for the pastoralists. I would like to add to the UNCCD and other organizers on how to engage, how they make sure that they engage the pastoralist communities in the different regions, and mainly here in Arab world and Asia, which is very important. We need to know how the procedure or the mechanism and how to engage more pastoralist communities in the initiatives from the UNCCD and others. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Khalid, for raising this really important point. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't have Bhavna here to present, because she was supposed to also talk about all the IYRP gatherings that are being planned and that are being supported by a lot of organizations, also some of the organizations that contributed here to this webinar. So yeah, but thank you for reinforcing this point and also making clear that if it's not right from the beginning, there's no point in engagement. It needs to be right at the start. Is there anyone from our panelists who would like to, from our speakers, who would like to briefly react to that? If so, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Leonie, this is Jonathan.
Yes.
Just to fully endorse Khalid's message. I think that's a point that comes out strongly in our report. And that's why I presented that graphic, to show really governance is the foundation for sustainable and for equitable investments in rangeland. And governance includes representation and voice and a proactive effort to empower and create opportunity for pastoralists. And I agree with you, pastoralists have to be involved from the beginning, but it's not too late to involve them later if you forgot. By the way, a lot of organizations overlook that. There are very complicated processes with donors where projects don't get discussed publicly early enough. It's not too late, but you should always do everything possible to bring pastoralists into the conversation as early as possible.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yes, fully agree. Okay, well, we already slightly ahead of our time, and I don't want to keep our interpreters who are doing a great job interpreting. Thank you for that. So let's close the meeting here. I have heard a lot of really interesting points in this session. I mean, we've heard points in previous sessions around Africa and Latin America, but this one, I think, really made clear that there's been quite a fundamental shift beyond, also that we will see beyond UNCCD, hopefully, in recognizing that rangelands and pastoralists like that rangelands are important land use categories, but also that pastoralists really need to be at the heart of management efforts and in terms of, as Jonathan just mentioned, in terms of governance for sure. We need to transform, or we hopefully will achieve transforming the way we see rangelands and the way we consider pastoralists as important actors within them. And we've heard a lot of good regional solutions from Uzbekistan, amazing story from Jordan. So thanks again to all of the speakers who managed to join and take the time to prepare for this. We hope to continue this conversation, firstly through IUCN Engage. We'll share all the recordings also of the previous sessions, all the material. We've prepared a list of useful resources that will be useful to just have at hand as we go into COP17 preparations, as we are reaching out to other stakeholders around organizing. So please stay tuned. We'll share that through IUCN Engage. Would like to also take the quick moment to thank the funding institutions that have made and partners that have made this webinar possible, including the Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation through their LifeSys project, and also the Federal Ministry of Environment, Climate Action, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety of Germany through the EKI project, and Jeff through Stella. So a lot of different projects involved and different partners involved. So thank you really to everyone who made this possible, who came along this way. And you see here we have one last dialogue actually, which is not regional. It's going to be global focus, picking up actually on the topics that Arion Tuya mentioned around finding synergies for rangelands and pastoralists across the conventions. So taking a bit of a convention level approach. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. That's going to happen on the 31st of March. And there's my contact details also if you want to reach out. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye, everyone.